through, doesn't it? I think you already had that mentality anyway before.
Yeah, generally, I think I develop it more lately because the more challenge you have, the stronger you become.
Yeah.
And you learn to
So,
deal with it. It's a survival way.
yeah. And also that you've now got knowledge filled within the
Yes.
positivity.
Yes, that helped like a million times over. Understanding, the Murli, understanding who God is, understanding who we are, understanding the whole drama. And that just takes away everything. It just puts you in a place where um nothing could hurt you, nothing could worry you.
Totally, absolutely. So Ben, great to see you. So give us some update. How is everything there? How is the recovery?
Shanti, my brother, Shanti, my sister. Alhamdulillah,
Shanti.
Shanti. Things we are in 1 week after the earthquake, so a lot of lessons Morocco got because it showed how important the cooperation and the feeling of oneness in this country. So every family gave a lot to reconstruct the blankets, food, and so it was amazing how ordinary people were doing this in a very spontaneous way. They took their cars and went to the mountains, and they couldn't reach there, so some of them have bought donkeys, because cars couldn't get there, just to bring these suppliants to these families. So there is something in psychology called like the guilt of the survivor, and I think we all somehow got this feeling that we have to, this guilt of the survivor pushes you to help those who are in difficult situation, because we feel we should be part of too. We should it was a wonderful feeling of oneness. This is what I witnessed. Shanti, thank you.
And underneath the guilt of the survivor is empathy, because what it's really saying is that could have been me. And like you shared with me the video, Sullivan sent me a video about her Baba's room where it's got cracks in the wall of the Baba's room, that this is not far away. This is very, very close. And I'll share with you all, I mean, I think what you're describing, we all experienced during COVID. So we all got that shared experience. And the drama is very complex and very sad at times. But what it does show us is in the tragic theme, the qualities of the soul. Amen. And one interesting thing, of course, about Baba's Murli, and he mentioned it again today, it was in the Murli, and because I'm having some problem with my gadgets, my new gadget is also broken. I'm going to begin today just sharing some points of today's Murli, because I wasn't able to actually record and send the small audio to everyone. And one of the points that came up again today is this point of having all the virtues and being worthy of heaven. So we're having this, because it's a term that's used a lot in Hindu praise of the deities, being complete with all virtues, Baba refers to it. And he was saying again today, you need all the virtues. And what's interesting is that the praise of the deities is not, you need all the knowledge, you need all of the powers. No, Baba doesn't say that. He doesn't say in the golden age you need all the powers. He says to us in the golden age, you definitely don't need the knowledge. If you had the knowledge, actually your happiness would reduce because you know you're descending. So you don't have the knowledge in the golden age. You don't need the 8 powers in the golden age, but you do need all the virtues and you need the purity. And so when we think about these 8 powers, when we think about the knowledge, that's for the confluencing. Now, the 8 powers are needed now. They are the response to the Iron Age. So what you've described there in Morocco, we've all seen in our localities during COVID that everyone's 8 powers began to be used. And what Baba says to us, he's saying today in the Murli, at the beginning, that Dada is giving us the donation of yoga, and we are giving the world the donation of yoga. We are taking and giving. Of course, Baba doesn't take, Baba just gives, but we are taking and then giving. And I've had a wonderful few days. We were traveling. Ranjanben's not going to join us today because the thing about traveling is it takes you about 3 days to recover. In fact, 2 days to pack and then 3 days to recover after. So she's just busy recovering, getting things together. So I said, don't worry. He can meet you all next week. But we had a wonderful few days. It was the first time drama was taking me to the capital city of Northern Ireland called Belfast. And I'll just briefly share, just in case people don't really know so much about the UK. But really, over the history of the United Kingdom, the English have dominated. And so the English, originally from Denmark, they're called the Angles, and they came from the east, from Denmark. And the original peoples of the UK, they are the Celts, and they're from Ireland. And if you look, as the peoples came from the east, the Celts got pushed to the west. So they live in Wales, in Ireland, and in Scotland. So they got pushed up that way over the time. And so there's a very historical antagonistic relationship going back between the English and other parts of the UK. So the English have then ruled over everyone. And as you know, then they had later on a big empire around the world, but it started off here in the British Isles. And then religion came up. So over the last 1500 years, the UK has become a Christian country. And then over the last 500 years, it split from Catholic Christian and became Protestant Christian. And very, very sadly, some parts of the UK have still remained with this conflict. So if you think in England, even 200 years ago, it was illegal to have Catholic schools. They're very cautious of Catholic teaching children. So it's a very the Catholic priests, they have the palaces and the big stately homes, like the Global Retreat Center. That's in a home called Newnham House. In this type of big home in the UK, they used to build secret tunnels for Catholic priests to hide. So if the family was secretly Catholic, they'll hide the priest inside because the Protestants, they don't believe in the Pope and the Catholic believe in the Pope. So they used to have to hide. It's a very, very dangerous thing. Where I used to be in Oxford, they have like the places where they used to burn the Catholics in public places and that. And unfortunately, we have parts of the UK where still there is this segregation. So places like Glasgow and Edinburgh in Scotland, and places like Ireland. So then Ireland entirely was ruled by the UK. And then 100 years ago, they had a war of independence. and the Catholics mainly won, but the north side has more of a Protestant population. So that's why the north part of Ireland is part of the UK, and then the rest of Ireland is independent. It's a republic. So in Northern Ireland, literally you got 50% of the population Protestant and 50% Catholic. And so until 25 years ago, there was a continuation of that 100-year ago war. It just carried on and like that. And even now, the Catholic families will send their children to Catholic school. The Protestant families send their children to Protestant schools. And the Catholic family will vote Catholic MPs and Catholic. So this still is, but the average person just wants to get on, right? They're just trying to earn some money or raise a family. That you look throughout history, empires come, empires go, but the actual person is still doing the same thing. They're trying to earn some money and raise a family. That's basically what the history of human civilization is. It's just the politics and the religion, and they just keep changing. So this was the drama took me here, and I hadn't planned this at all. It was an invite. I am a professor of public management in the Department of Public Administration, and they had heard a podcast I had given, and this is a very big society for the local politicians, so the politicians of local government, and also the chief executives of the local authorities. And by chance, by drama, they were meeting there in Ireland, in Belfast. So they paid for me to come. And then for my employer, the University of Birmingham, they paid for arranging them to fly there and be with me. And it was in a very special building as well. So it was the assembly room. It was an old church, a very, very special room, like a theater type of room, with very old types of furniture and everything. So I enjoyed it a lot to experience and being with all of the people who are doing a lot for their community. So why I wanted to just mention this was I had two thoughts in my mind as we were in Northern Ireland. So my first time drama is taking me. I had three Amrit Velas there in that city of Belfast. Now, if you think for my generation, I grew up every day with the news telling me about violence in Northern Ireland. So I would never have considered visiting there as a I would never would have done. But no one went there. And especially like even immigrants like Indians, they wouldn't settle in Northern Ireland. Like they would come to settle in England. And when I was 12 years old, I was brought up in northwest part of London. And as a teenage, in my early teenage youth years, I used to find it very difficult to sleep at night. So I used to listen to Baba's Murli and then the radio. And I remember I had a clock radio, so it showed me the time and played the radio. And I remember very vividly, it was 2:30 in the morning. And I hadn't said, I was just listening. And my entire house shook and the window shook. And I heard such a loud bang, an explosion. And I thought there's a bomb on my road. It was so loud. Now, as it turned out, it was a bomb 3 miles away. So, but the experience it was so immediate. So it must have been a very powerful bomb, and it was planted in a van. Luckily, no one was injured, but they blew up a bridge. So they were not trying to harm anyone. They did it in the middle of the night when no one is using the bridge, and they took down some of that bridge. But so this is my memory of Northern Ireland. Like this is the sort of association. So now we've had 25 years of peace, and Northern Ireland is a very different country, booming, and lots of investors, very successful economy within the UK. But still the segregation exists. And the politicians, they're refusing to even enter the parliament to cooperate. So it's actually the government in London that's running Northern Ireland because they cannot even forgive each other enough to sit in the same parliament to talk. So it's still very sad, and the people are being let down. But it's the local government that are actually doing the things for the people. So it's these people that were in the room. And then there were also these type of local government from around the UK. So the Welsh, the Scottish, the English, everyone was there. And so I was trying to maintain a stage of constant yoga as much as possible because like Baba was saying today, wherever you Brahmins are, you're there to give a donation of yoga. We spoke about this the other week, that wherever you are important. The drama has put you there for a reason. And certain places, they need that more than other places, but also there are certain places, the vibrations, they spread in many places. And also that there's also certain karmic accounts. So you might recall I was sharing with you what is it's a second-hand story, but I think there's definitely something in it. So a Brahmin had told me that they were having a lot of obstacles with the government in France. And the French government, it's a republic, they had a revolution where they got rid of the church, they got rid of the monarchy. So there's a cult of suspicion of religions as well. And they believe in like oneness, like you are a citizen and we must all be one, and religion is dividing us, monarchy is dividing us. So they have a different history, a different culture. And then apparently Baba said in a message that there's a lot of this type of karmic account of the past in that country. And then there's also was a period in Europe where the Catholic Church was having inquisitions, like if you disagree with anything or if they suspect you of anything, they would just burn people, kill people. So been a lot of violence linked with religion in Europe. And Northern Ireland, it's been very recent. So I thought drama is taking me. Then I must definitely stay in a battle because it's very important. Because I could feel, because I was there the first day, the sadness, like a vibration of sadness inside of some people, because it shouldn't be like that. And so many people have sorrows. When you enter a war zone, even a former war zone, there's many decades of death. So the generations of families, they are carrying this burden of sorrow and death and revenge, and retaliation, and this. So I was just staying in the remembrance of Baba, the ocean of love, the ocean of mercy, the ocean of forgiveness. And so my Amrit Vedas were very focused on this, and other times as well. And the hotel was immediately in the middle of the capital city. So I was staying right in the middle because the venue was also right in the middle. And then during the daytime, I was in this conference of all of the leaders who are trying to make a difference for the people. So in those gatherings, I was remembering Baba as the ocean of all powers. So we had that point earlier in the week that the ocean of all virtues is making you full of all virtues. And so these souls, they need our support. So one of the roles of the Brahma is to support the people who are leaders in the way. So they don't know Shabbat. So they don't have that direct access to Baba's power and virtue. The Brahmins do. But the Brahmins have to take the 8 powers, and then by staying in Baba's remembrance, the atmosphere of the 8 powers, it's like an invisible cloud in the room. And then souls will just get automatically filled with the powers that they need, because they must then go back to their community and take good decisions for their community. They must have tolerance, they must accommodate, all of they need all of it. So this was my focus, and I had the opportunity to sit in a room with all these leaders from around the UK. So what a great, drama, how it works was amazing. And for many hours, just staying in Brothers Remembering, and of course learning and meeting everyone. And then I'd given a lecture, like it was a Lockett subject and topic, but it went very well. And I was actually the only professor invited. So again, people noticed, and I'm sure those relationships will continue. And then they love Ranjan Ben so much. So she was in the hotel as well. And I'd had the thought that it would be quite nice that when I'm talking, I'll show her the room. She could come in and sit at the top of the upper gallery as well. And then at breakfast time in the hotel, I introduced the chair, the chief executive of the association. And she just said to Ranjan Ben, "Oh, you must come and attend. You must come and listen to your son speak." And so then she got officially invited in. And then I had mentioned in the speech as well how thank you for welcoming her as well. And also how, because they were talking, one of the issues they were talking about was what qualities and policies we need to keep the staff. Because these local government staff, they are the people really serving, right? The people, they collect the garbage, they prepare the streets, they give the food, they look after the children, like everything that really people need, that's what they are providing. And if you lose these people, because they don't, usually the salary is not that high, and they can often be given like too much work, too much pressure to do, and no one really appreciates that. Only they get complaints. So there was this type of atmosphere where we got shortages sometimes of workers. So I was explaining as well that, you accommodating, my employer paid for my mother to come, so I could come. But these are all things. And then they had a special awards dinner where they give awards to all these different departments, like catering team of the year, cleaning team of the year. So it's a nice way to celebrate the humble workers. And it's like a big gala dinner. They had like a BBC presenter hosting everything, and it was in a very important building called. Many of you might have heard of the Titanic ship. It was the largest ship. It was built in Belfast, and there's a very famous movie made of it. And it's a very sad story in the end because they hit an iceberg and it sank. But it was built in Belfast, and somehow they've turned it into an asset because many people go and visit to learn about that. And they've built a very beautiful museum building, and it was in that they hosted this dinner. And a very special room. They recreated the special dining room from inside of the ship into the museum. So it was in that room. And the chief executive, they were fundraising for charity. So I think it was like £300 ticket per person. So I was never, we don't need anything anyway. So I was never going to pay. So then she said to me at the conference, "Oh, you and your mother, we've booked you tickets as our guest to come to the dinner." And I said, "Oh, yeah, we didn't expect anything like that." I said, "Oh, well, do you have a special diet?" I said, "Yeah, well, actually we're fasting, so only fruit." So then they brought us, they had a fruit thing ready for us. And so we attended, and we spent the evening also just staying in yoga, and all of these frontline workers from so many different local authorities. So like you're saying, Salva, and how it's meant at this time, you really appreciate the different workers, the different people contributing. We don't think about them on a day-to-day basis. But as a Brahmin, our job is to share the 8 powers. So this is something where is the role that we need the 8 powers, especially at the end of the INA. The 8 powers are not really for the golden, but there's a title that Baba gives to the Brahmin that he doesn't give to the deity, and that's the Master Almighty Authority. He doesn't call the deity Master Almighty Authority. And the Master Almighty Authority means being full of knowledge, full of power, and full of wisdom. All three. But the praise of the deities is just full of wisdom. So this is something where we have to build our yoga power, we have to build our stock of the 8 powers. And more, the Brahmins are going to need to donate the 8 powers through the mind. And we have to practice serving all three at once. Powers through the mind, knowledge and wisdom through will, and virtues through act. And as the Brahmins have developed this practice of all three, so like sharing knowledge and wisdom is easy, that we're all used to speaking. Virtues, well, that happens naturally, and we've got to focus and improve ourselves each day. But the real concentration is in, can I keep my mind with Shiv Baba while I'm performing action? That karma yoga. And the second way of doing it is as I'm talking with people, can I see the point, my brother's soul in the forehead? So an interesting point in today's Murli was this point of reducing the numbers of relationships. So one of Baba's narratives today was that don't see yourself now in many relationships. Just Shiv Baba, as Shiv Baba's children, you're all brothers. And then there's Mama and Baba. And as their children, you are brothers and sisters. That you don't have any more relationships. So one of the 8 powers is the power to pack up. And part of the power to pack up is actually this reduction in relationships. Because in body consciousness, we're always increasing. This is mine, this is mine, this is mine, and it's always growing and growing. And some cultures, it's like very big families, like very big consciousness of many, many relationships and associations. But something which Baba's been emphasizing, and it came up on Thursday. If I get the chance, I will record the translation. So on Thursday, one of the bold messages from Sister Shakti, Baba was talking about how we are experimenting a lot of Brahmins with service programs externally, but we're not experimenting enough with the service through the mind. And what that is saying is that if we experiment more with silence, we'll see some really interesting things happen. Firstly, the more that we continue to change ourselves, then Baba's attainment will be experienced even more through Baba. Secondly, he's saying that the more we practice the point form and remembering the point and being the point and seeing the point, then the powers that are inside of the point will continue to be realized. We'll begin to uncover new powers. So this is something that I was working with, and we can all experiment with. So part of the point form is what I was saying today, reducing relationships. So part of the point is that you're only my brother. You're not anything else. So the families that we have or the associations we have, that is saying, just look at the soul in the forehead and take yourself as well into this state of eternity. So Baba has been talking about that this week, that the stage of eternity is where even if someone leaves the body, you're just seeing the continuity. So if you practice from now, connecting with the point of the soul, you know that no one dies. You know, every soul is just continuing always their journey. So we have to have this practice from now, and it increases the feeling inside of the soul of permanence. There's a strength that gets unlocked inside of us as we see the brother side and consider ourselves to be a brother side. When we come into temporary identity, we lose this strength. And then the other thing Baba was talking about today was the power of the soul to fly. So he was saying that you got your identity down there, which you know about, but you got two other identities. The identity of the angel. So there's part of you which exists in the follow region. And then your identity as an incorporeal soul in the soul world. Now you spend your time down here, locked down here because of the burden that you're carrying. And so through Baba's remembrance, you're removing the burden. And it enables your wings to begin to unfurl and then to fly. So Baba said, firstly, you have to change from thorns into buds. And then Baba will work with you to go from buds to flowers. And the other day, Baba said that a completely blossoming flower means your karma peace. So at that time, no one had achieved that. Now, some souls have achieved that. Of course, Mama and Baba have achieved that. We saw it with our senior daddies as well. And they like are just blossomed, like shining through. So at that point, all of the impurities and the burdens and the traumas and the sorrows, they suppress the powers and the qualities inside of the soul. And as we use devices, it all gets suppressed. So as that transforms, initially we're like a bud, and then we continue to blossom through Baba's study, through purity, and through remembrance. And it's that blossoming flower which becomes the angel. So that then is the soul beginning to fly. An angel is double life, and a point is double life. So what that is saying is that can you develop your practice to exist in those other two worlds? So you're not just existing with your mind down here, but you're actually existing in the subtle. You do anyway, but your mind is still down here. And Baba wants us to increase that experience of that being the real world. And then the soul world, sometimes Baba says this, you're masters of the land of Brahm. So Brahm means nirvana. Brahm means light, element of light. So you are masters of that world, that universe. As Baba was saying that this morning, I was thinking about how as a bodily being, we're so limited even in this universe, right? You can't fly very far. Like we need big suits even to take people into space a little bit, otherwise this body would not survive outside of this world. But because of this body, we're very limited as to how much of this universe we can see. Because we know through the telescope, there's so many galaxies, the recent telescopes, they've shown us so many beautiful images of all these different galaxies and so. But that is saying the soul world is also a universe, it's unlimited space. Like this universe is unlimited, you'll never find the end of it. Similarly, the soul world, you never find the end of it. So as Baba was saying that, I was just thinking of myself as a soul. And there I don't need a suit, right? I can travel through the soul world. And how extraordinary and beautiful it will be to explore nirvana and that unlimited space. And the soul is a rocket, so I don't think there's any time or gravity. I think because you have gravity, I think for time and space and things. So there's no gravity in nirvana, and we can just travel and see. So Baba's wanting a train. It's like an exercise for the mind because the mind is in a cage. So Baba says you're caged there, and you are caged by relationships, by tasks, by old samskaras, by day-to-day duties. But the job of a yogi is to free the mind. And so this is what Baba is training us for. And so part of that is reducing relationships, practicing just the brother soul and how we're all connected. And that really then enables the mind to stay in the essence. And then the next narrative of this morning, so why I'm sharing all this, I've got technical trouble at the moment, so I won't be able to send the daily um, uh, revision. So I thought I would record it all now. What was interesting is this narrative today of meeting an incarnated soul. So if we think about history, there are some very fortunate people. They met the Prophet Muhammad, they met Christ, they met Ibrahim, they met the Buddha. Like there are some people that actually met, they were there at that time. And what Baba explains to us is the religious fathers, they're the hero actors of the copper and the iron age. So this play is dominated by religion. And religion shapes politics, really. And so our world is a product of the many different religions that have come. And Baba says they sit in groups in the soul world. And when the religious father comes, it's like a family tree within a family tree, like a segment of the family tree. It begins to come, they're like the gate. They open a gate. And in that first birth, the religious father is an incarnation. They remain in their karmatic state. This is why they have such big impact. So they don't get born through a mother's womb. So, for example, Muhammad is the chariot, the body, and the prophet. He enters Muhammad. And this is why they have the story. Salwa Ben can correct me if this is incorrect, but the story is that Muhammad goes into the mountain, into the cave, and he comes out with the Quran. So the prophet has entered, and he has come with the Quran, the holy book, the holy teaching. Muhammad did not know this before. You know, this is divine revelation. And so when the karmatic soul has incarnated, there's big attraction. They're like a magnet. And then many souls, they're also new souls of that religion. So like Islam spread very fast because so many new souls, they're coming in just 50, 60 years, big empire. Then before that, the big religion that had been established was the Christian religion. So that when Christ came, Baba says that there was this story of the virgin birth and things. This is actually the story of Krishna. So the different religions, they borrow different stories. So that Christ, how it's shown in the Bible, that Jesus is shown in one of the Gospels as a 13-year-old with his father Joseph, and they're carpenters. And then next time they see him, 24-year-old and his rabbi, teacher. So in this period, the soul of the Christ has come. Always the religious fathers, they are teachers. They come with knowledge. So the rest of us, when we come, we don't come with knowledge. We have to learn knowledge. But the religious fathers, they have innate knowledge. And they come and they come at this stage. So they come into the body, so Christ and to Jesus. The first 300-400 years of the Christian religion, they also used to talk about the two, the divine and the human, the two in one. And like the Orthodox religions and things, they still talk about this. But many traditions, they then got suppressed by the church's teaching. Then, before then, the major religious father was the Buddha. And so the Buddha, he established that religion, but it was saying around about 2,500 years approximately. And he established in India. And again, that religion, like for nearly 1,000 years, everyone became Buddhist, like it just spread across India and across those Asia, like maybe from Afghanistan right across to other Asian countries. So when a religious father comes, because before it was actually a prince, Siddhartha, and then he began to have this disinterest, and he became a monk. And then he was looking and searching, and then one day they say he had enlightenment. He suddenly had knowledge. So the Buddha, he would have entered the soul, the religious father, and then suddenly he has this enlightenment. Suddenly he has all the wisdom. He's not searching anymore. So that explains that in that first birth, there are incarnations, but then those religious fathers do take rebirth in their religion, and that they expand their religion. So many of them, they would become kings. So when you look in the history of that religion, after a while, a king becomes part of that religion. So like in India, there's a very famous king called Ashoka, and he spread Buddhism, like from Afghanistan to Sri Lanka. And still now you can visit the Ashoka pillars. There's some still remaining. So he built huge pillars with the teachings of Buddhism. And some of you might have seen that India hosted the G20 the other week. And when President Modi was welcoming all the leaders, there was a big wheel behind him. That's the Buddhist Dharma wheel. It's like also on the flag of India. So Buddhism is very, very influential in India. And then Baba says the final religious father is Shiva. So you have Buddha, then Christ, and then Prophet Muhammad. These are the three major. There are others as well, but they are smaller religions. But the three major religions is Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. And then the final. So because it's a cycle, the end meets the beginning. So the final, you can call it the final one, or you can call it the first. So there's it's known as a play now in the West, the Disney play called Aladdin and his magic lamp. But the correct pronunciation is Alauddin. So the word Deen, correct me if I'm wrong, so Deen means religion or day, like the first day. So Baba explains in the Murli, it is actually Allah Aval Deen. The first religion is the one that Allah himself established. So he does it on the first day, Avaldi. And so Baba says that for you, this is the Amrit Vela of the cycle. So the day is ended for you. And for you, this is your first of 21 births. So 8 births in the Golden Age, 12 births in the Silver Age, means 20. So why 21 births? Now is the first birth. So you have ended your Iron Age, you ended your night, and now this is Allah Aval Deen. So he is creating the first day of the first religion in the cycle. So Baba says now it is called the Hindu religion, but Baba does not create the Hindu religion. He creates deity. So he is the only one. He establishes a religion of worship worthy. The other religious father, they create worshippers. So this is the difference. So Allah is the one who has the power to create worshippers, to create angels, to create deities. And he does this through transformation. All the other religious fathers, they will create worship for. So their role, that's the role of the Brahmin, the path of bhakti. So in this way, Baba is saying, if you think how special the fortune is if you met one of the religious fathers. And you never know. We might have, we don't know our past lives. Maybe we did have that privilege. But like Buddha, he taught for many years, right till he was 80 years old. So long time he was teaching. It's possible, we could have met. Christ only taught, it's amazing, isn't it? He only taught for 9 years. And in 9 years, he's such a big religion, so a very powerful soul, for sure. And the Prophet Muhammad taught for some decades. So it's possible. And I could have met them and the other religious fathers as well. But you now have this privilege to be
Yes, brother.
studying. Yeah, to come in.
Yes, brother. I just want to add some one detail. It is said
Yeah,
that there are prophets and there are also messengers. We
yeah,
make this distinguish.
yeah.
And like Prophet Muhammad, he was prophet from his beginning to his end, but he was messenger only the 23 years of his
Uh,
life.
mm,
And so in Quran it is distinguished, like when God would speak in Quran to prophet, he would sometimes like blame him. He's not perfect, like when he talks to him as a prophet, he is,
mm,
he might be blamed sometimes, like, why would you do this, you shouldn't do that. So God would talk to him like that. But when he talks to him as a messenger, it is another tone, it is another um, like the messenger is, and his companions, the companions of Prophet Muhammad, have noticed that and told them, is it the prophet who is speaking or the messenger who is speaking? So
mm,
they distinguish also this um, um, this style of
mm.
giving
It-
giving directions and so on. So
yeah, that's so helpful.
yes,
It's like
so
there's the human side and then there's the divine, something which has
yes.
come from above. You can feel the difference. Yeah, that's so helpful.
Yes, and
So,
he would say also, the Prophet Muhammad would say, I am a prophet, I am just like you. I walk in the markets, in the souks, I walk, but also there are some things that I am not, have no control of. He, I don't know how would he feel this. It's very hard to live two entities like that. I don't know
yeah, I agree.
really how he even.
And we hear again, it's been one of the narratives this week in the Murli about the importance of the mother soul. And so what Baba explains is that they're like the host body, that's actually the soul of the mother of that religion. You must always have this relationship with the Prophet and Muhammad, Jesus and Christ, Siddhartha and the Buddha, and you've got Brahma and Shiva. So you must have this dual combination, and that mother soul, like you're describing just there, they walk with us. So they are the ones with the empathy, the mother of the religion. This is why, like, the Muslims will have deep, deep attachment to the Prophet Muhammad. Like, it will feel very personal. Similarly, like with the BK, like they feel they didn't meet Brahma Buddha, but the connection. It's very, very deep. It won't matter. It doesn't matter you didn't meet them, but because they are your mother's soul, you have that. And so this is the sort of insight that Baba provides for us. So Baba is saying, think of your privilege now. You know, you are being sustained directly. Father, teacher, Satguru, by Shiv Baba. So he's incarnation. He doesn't have body of his own. And he is also Lord of the three worlds. He can fly. So he can come and go. No one else can do this between all three worlds. And you've got Brahmababa, who's become now the angel Adam. He's become complete. And you are gaining this sustenance, very, very subtle, subtle. And even the Murlis now, that we hear every Sunday, and Shiv talks a lot about effort that Brahmababa made, stage that Brahmababa had, how you got to follow him. Very helpful, actually. And so that is saying you are having this experience of being with an incarnation. So I thought this was a very powerful point in today's narrative. And then the final narrative in today's Murli was just about making sure people are ready to go to Motherbath. So you see, things were a little bit more informal in the 1960s, and people, in one sense, it's a good sign. They complete the course and they say, "Oh, I want to go to Mount Abu and meet Baba." So that's a good sign, but it takes a while to get ready sometimes, like to understand the knowledge properly. But then later, the daddies had made the rule that you have to come for 1 year. Like that. You follow the purity, understand the knowledge for 1 year, listen to the moral for 1 year, then go to Motherbath. So I think that's a better, and this is what that is commenting today, that some people, they were coming and they didn't really. So he's saying that teachers, you've got to really discern properly, is this person ready to come to Motherbath? And in those days, there was no retreat centers, or there wouldn't have been so much. It was only Motherbath. And that's why people would go. So those are the main narratives of today's model. Would anyone else like to come in and make some comments?
Om Shanti, everyone. Morning, brother. I like the point where, on service, wherever you're planted is really for service, and that is never to question where you are at any point in time. Like I have moved to the south of the island, and there's some challenges here. You see the difference between the north and the south. Politics also involved because water is an issue in the south area. But I've been questioning, like I've asked Baba, I am here and my intention was for service. And, water being a restriction because it's something I didn't experience in the north. It is needed if I were to have, a BK being here with me. And actually water came today, so the tanks are filled again. And you realize that really Baba helps you when you ask, which is something I have not been doing really. And I decided, look, let me just ask. But really the point of wherever you are, wherever you're planted, it is for service. It is for service. And that you would have gone to Belfast in a country, where you thought you would not have ever wanted to go. And to have souls of all kinds to be there, regardless of whether or not you speak a point of knowledge or your vibrations, wherever you are, your vibrations, you did your Amrit Vela, must have an impact within that area. So it is a good reminder for me that all Brahmin's life is one of service. Wherever we are, in whatever form, it has to be that of service that Baba puts us there. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sister. And as you were speaking, it reminded me also that you will recall that we've had a few Murlis on the Sunday where Baba has been talking about renouncing name and fame and honor and all these limited desires. And he was saying that Brahmins are having too many waste thoughts linked with these things. And he said that he is really looking for us to reveal Baba through our faith and behavior. So he's saying that you're going to get your final result, not if you ran 30 centers and you had all of this prestige and role, but how much happiness did you get? And secondly, how powerful did your stage remain when the test papers come? And thirdly, how worthy did you make up? And you know that he was saying that wherever you are, you're walking, you're moving, let others experience Buddha's attainments in your faith. Let that be there. That's the accumulation. And you do see Brahmin's faces shining, don't you? I mean, but that is noticeable. Wherever you go, you look at around the class, you do notice that Brahmin's attainments, Buddha's attainments are on Brahmin faces. But as Brahmins, we take that for granted. And we should. Baba can see, and souls are receiving vibrations of that. So that's the first thing. And then just by looking at soul in the forehead, that's service. So we did take it up in one chit chat, but I think last Sunday we listened to the 4th of December 95. So tomorrow, I haven't looked at the date, but I think it would be somewhere around about the 15th or the 16th of December 95. And then the Murli, the following Sunday, it will be the New Year's Murli. So it'll be the 31st of December 95. And you'll all recall that it's the commencement of the Diamond Jubilee year for Bada's class. And I can recall very vividly in that New Year's Murli, Bada's talking very beautifully about the diamond. And he's saying that when Baba looks at souls, there might be a soul with 99 defects and one virtue. What do you think Baba's looking at? He's looking at that one virtue. And why? So Baba goes on to explain why. Because that one virtue will grow because Baba's looking at it. Like if Baba's got such powerful vision, if he's looking at our defects, what's going to grow in us? If he's telling us how bad we are, what's going to grow in us? So he then goes on to say that as Brahmin, even if we meet a soul who is very impure, he says they're like dark, like a piece of coal, but you still see the diamond inside of that piece of coal. Every time you do that, he says their darkness diminishes. It's such a powerful line that every time a Brahmin sees the virtue inside of the soul, their darkness diminishes. So Baba is saying this is why he gets us to practice full consciousness as well. So as he was saying today, that all of the things we do, it benefits us and benefits the world. You're taking and you're giving. And this is something which is very, very subtle, but ultimately it is the service. Because look, Baba is not even in a body. This is the service they're doing. And this is why we got to graduate. And these senior daddies, they became very experienced in the service of the mind, these daddies and daddies. I met quite a number of times some of the dadas, which many of you will not even know. Ambika Ben might know, but like Dada Visharathan, Dada Anand Kishore, Dada Chandraha. And as a young person, I met them many times in Madhaban, and sometimes I've sat in little classes with them, or I've gone on walks with them, or just chatted. And I must admit, I used to think, why are they not trying to be more important? Like I used to see like Brother Nirvana or Brother JB, Sugar. They're like given a lot of importance and they're doing big lectures and big programs. And these brothers have been with Baba longer. They've been there right since 1930. But they were not really playing a role or position. They were just being part of the service for their motherbound thing. And then over the years, I really have seen that they understood what Baba's been teaching us on these Sundays. The service is about giving happiness. At the final mark was not about, they knew, they already understood this point. But the final mark is going to be about how much happiness they gave, how powerful their stays remained. Were they sharing Baba's attainments on their faith? Were they sharing Baba's virtues on their behavior? It was never about name and fame and prestige. They knew that. Lachu Daddy, Ishu Daddy, they knew. They were not interested in all of the big roles. So this is something, that stays with me, that these souls, they were very good examples because nowadays we can get carried away a little bit with the examples of fame and of popularity. But actually, Baba is interested in a lot of the unrecognized work. And the same happens in the Lockheed world, because mostly what people are doing is not recognized. But without them, the community doesn't run. And so in this way, let's become very subtle. Let's be aware that there's a great importance in you waking up for Amrit Vela, remembering Baba, hearing or reading the Murli, preparing Baba's food, through the day, staying in Baba's remembrance, and you are spreading energy, golden energy. And in this dark night of the Iron Age, stars are very important. Sailors navigate according to the stars. And this is you. People going across the desert, they navigate according to the stars. There are no landmarks. So in this dark night, people are looking for the stars. And the more that we shine with Baba's energy and we remove all of the burdens inside of us, this is what will come through. And so Baba's got a very unlimited path. Even with the senior daddies and mama, he's put them all in the advanced party. He's hidden them all as well. And so they are definitely serving different professions. You recall we read all those messages about Daddy Prakash and he's serving the council. And so there's this subtlety that as Brahmins develop their accumulation of yoga power, of blessings, of good karma, what happens is he puts us into roles of supporting different leaders within the world. If you look at your position in the tree of religion, you're now in the roots, and the roots are hidden. The seed is hidden. So the roots and the seed are incognito. And Baba says this is a banyan tree because only the branches are visible. There isn't a trunk visible in a banyan tree. And so at this time, the power of governance, the power of religion, and the power of science, these are the three great authorities and powers that run the world. They are not in the hands of the deity. There's no trust. And so these three powers, they rest in the souls of other religions. But Shibata, the seed, has come, and as we connect with the seed, we become roots. So the job of the Brahmin is to be the incognito support for the people who are to speak and do. So the Brahmins have to provide the mansa, the service of the monk. And then Baba says, others will be the monks. They will speak what needs to be said. And then in the world, it's not possible that we can do everything. So many souls are doing. So the job of the Brahmins is to provide the mantra. So you are the only ones who can do that. Would anyone else like to come in with anything?
Shanti again, brother. One sister again sent me something, maybe just touch on it a little. She's saying, why do we need to churn the Murli when we read the Murli? What is what is the benefit in that? And to churn the Murli, how would you advise both old and young to churn the Murli?
Yeah, great question. So these are quite popular questions, actually. So first of all, let's look at the language that I was using, churning the Murli. And so it's evoking two images. The first is from the Hindu scriptures, and they show that the deities and the demons existed together. And there was this time, both of them were interested in the nectar of immortality, both wanting to become immortal. And this nectar of immortality was given by Vishnu. And what happened is that Vishnu gave this nectar to Lakshmi. And Lakshmi, he was bringing this nectar. And as it was being brought down, it spilt into the ocean. And then in order to extract it from the ocean needed to be churned. So to churn the ocean, they needed the great snake king. And so they show an underworld, which is ruled by snakes. And he's called Nagara. So the great Nagara, he agreed that he would help to churn the ocean. So they used him like a rope to create the whirling of the ocean. And that's how the nectar is extracted. At the time when nectar was extracted, as they churned the ocean, poison also emerged. So in order to separate the poison from the nectar, Vishnu said they got to pray to Shiva. Shiva is the only one who can drink poison. And this is why they show Shiva Shankar a darker color. So they say that he drank the poison and turned a darker color, like a bluish type of color. And so this is the mythological story. So Baba says the snake Baba bites. The Baba comes and gives us nectar, but our mind is polluted with poison and all sorts. It's an ocean of rubbish. And so at the time, firstly, we've got to accept the nectar. So we've got to just listen to the Murli and understand. So Baba calls it inculcated knowledge. So that's the first thing that we got to do. So this is my first advice for churning. It is to master the concept. So don't try and churn something new until you've got a very secure understanding of the concept. I have heard each of these Murlis at least 1,000, or have overheard or read them. So I understand the concept pretty well. But even today, when I heard the Murli, I grasped this concept today for the first time, that he was talking about what it's like to meet an incarnation. So as we understand all the concepts, then as that security of understanding develops, then we can begin to develop connection between the concepts. So as we connect concepts, then that's called churning. We heard this thing in one morning. It also connects with this thing in this morning. So build connection. And then the third thing, where the diaries are very helpful, is adding in stories. So the human brain, since we're children, we learn in stories. And people, if you give a lecture, they're more likely to remember the story and forget the rest of the lecture because of that. So our brain works in stories and it works in pictures, in imagery. So you learn concepts, you learn stories, and you learn imagery. And churning is the art of making connection between these things. So this is why, this is how we churn. So I've been given this great opportunity every day to talk to all of you. And what I try and do is I try and convey the main narratives that are in the Morals, because I want to make sure, first of all, that the concepts are very clear for everyone. I'll then think about what is the imagery that Baba is referring to. And then you'll hear me say, well, when Debbie Janki read this movie, she told this story, or she explained this. So I'm bringing in stories. Right? So I'll always make sure in my 15 minutes or 10 minutes that I'm recording, you'll notice these things are there. There's the definition and clarification of the concept. There's the sharing of a story to illustrate the concept. And there's also imagery, so you remember the concept. And this is what we call churning. And then obviously I have this opportunity for many years to explain. So Bob often says in the morning, begin teaching others. So just go, just begin. Because if you get the chance, it's through teaching that we learn how to refine our thinking and explanation. So that's just practice as well. But that also helps us tune, because good explanation must be tailored to the student. What do they mean? So we hear Baba do that in the Murli as well. He's got a particular group in front of him. He uses imagery, stories, explanations that suits them. So that's also why we need that, because as good teachers, we need a repertoire. If we just say the same story, just explain the same thing, it doesn't resonate with the student in the same way. So we must have a good repertoire. So just to recap, my first advice, especially if you're newer in knowledge, is don't worry so much about focus on understanding concepts. And I think foundation to really have understood all the concepts well takes about 10 years. So it's that daily reading of the Morals. There's a lot of Morals. And so and just reading them all in one go doesn't necessarily mean we understood them anyway. So what happens is over 10 years, we get some Morals repeated, we hear them daily, and we go, okay, yeah, we got. So we basically understand the tree very well, the cycle very well, the 3 words very well, the Baba very well, Baba very well, Nana very well, spinning the cycle, the we are very well. So that I think it takes quite a lot of years to really become very secure in that understanding. And then my experience is after we got that and we picked up stories along the way and we picked up imageries along the way. So I'm about I mean, I heard things as I was a child, but I took it much more seriously since 93, 94. So I'm about 30 years in. So you can see that daily study, I now have a good level of mastery and a good level of refinement. But I saw with Day Yankee, she felt like she was listening to the Murli every day. So she approached it like new every day. So that's the way, just that sense of excitement every day. What am I going to hear today? That's new. So I have heard all these Murlis and I have read all these Murlis, but I'm changing. So that's what's the big difference. And then I hear those same concepts, it feels deeper. So I never think that just because I've understood, I don't need to go deeper into that thing. And my training in my law profession has helped me a lot, I think, in that. So by doing a PhD, that's basically what you do. The first thing you're taught is we don't want to know a lot of things. We don't want to know a little bit about a lot of things. We want to know a lot about one thing. So you do a PhD on a very specific point, and they want you to write 100,000 words on that one very specific thing. That's what scholarship is. And so that has helped me with the model, because even though it's a concept, like I could have explained the soul since the first day, right? Yeah, okay, I'm a soul. But then I know that actually when you go into the depths of that, you really get a lot of richness. And that has also helped me. But I don't think you need a PhD to do that. It's just that it's the point of that let me always go deeper into the concepts I already know. So then it feels new, fresh, all the time. And then lastly, we need dialogue between Brahmins. So why we've set up these chit chats is it's good quality, high level conversation about the moral. So I know some of you tune in afterwards to watch the YouTube, but I would encourage you to try and attend these things. Maybe you also have it after your Murli revision classes, but after Murli. But sometimes, I mean, there's nothing wrong with just repeating Murli points. I mean, there's a usefulness to that as well. But sometimes, just after a Murli, someone comes out, what point do you remember in the Murli? And they just repeat it. Okay, but that's not chanting. That's memorize, recalling memory recall. But what you really need is the dialogue that takes you into depth. And you challenge each other, you discuss the depth. That's what will really bring the joy, and it files the brain. Like, oh, I didn't think of that before. Or someone said something, it reminds you of something else. And so I would recommend you all, if you want to become good trainers, you need the dialogue as well. So you could set that up at your centers, you could set it up with other Brahmins. Maybe, I know some of you have different languages as well, so you might like to do it in your native language. But that will be important as well. If you think, how do we educate at universities? We have seminars, right? Not just lectures, but then we'll also have like a dialogue type of format. And so those are important. And we teach civil servants, and they're very experienced people already. So you find that the classroom is very lively with lots of experience, lots of knowledge, and they really enjoy that because it's getting them to really think with others. I would say that kind of change. I don't know if Ambika Ben wants to come in and comment somewhere.
Yes, brother. I do agree in when Brahmins get together and you go through the points, because we used to have that at the center. It doesn't happen anymore. but it really is something to be encouraged that when we get together and you go through, because there are different points that comes up, different ideas that how they interpret the Murli. For me, I've always gone from the beginning. If something did not make sense to me, I will go through it over and over again, and until it resonates with me. It may not be always the correct thing, but at that point, in churning the Murli, it makes sense. Sometime later on, something else will come up and I will change my perspective on what I was thinking now. And then later on. So like when the beginning, I had this thing of this when Baba was talking, and the instrumentals will always say you go to golden age, you need to create subjects and all that. And that didn't really appeal to me all that much, because I one day had to ask a sister, Baba making us subjects, or are he making us into emperor and empresses? And then you realize later on, it's not Baba making us into subjects. We will do that for ourselves. So in churning, it will make sense later on if it doesn't at the beginning. Because when Baba told me, you're a deity soul, I could not conceptualize that, because you come into this knowledge with so much already that has happened. And sometimes you feel so ashamed of some of the things that, but then when you go back through and then you say, the life experiences brings you to this point, and you build on that, and you then look to appreciate where your life has been. So yes, and going through, when Baba says certain things in the beginning, you take it at face value, but really you have to churn, go deep within, and nobody can do that for you. Everyone can have an opinion and of what it is, but it's what resonates with you, what becomes real for you. And I think that is what has helped me. Yes, you take everything. Sometimes I don't agree with some of the thinking that some souls will have, but you take it at face value, because later on it may very well make sense, So churning is really, really important. And for me, churning throughout the day in your quiet time, whenever you're doing and you're talking to Baba, I think mostly in talking to Baba, when there's a point and it doesn't make sense to you, Baba helps you with it. Baba clarifies it for you. And even when you're saying that we teach, I've given the course, I don't do it anymore at this point. When you're even teaching, it's a point of service, because there's sometimes in giving the course to a particular soul or to a few souls, sometimes you say things and you don't know where it comes from. And it becomes something, a new point for you as well. And you say, oh, I now understand it in this way. So the whole thing is that I realize that Baba is always available. Yeah. Baba is always available. And especially if you're doing his service, Baba is there to guide, because otherwise some disservice can be done. So once the heart is clean and pure, and the intention is really to bring souls closer to God, I think that's the ultimate key, to bring souls closer to God, to take from God, not from human beings as we've been doing. Baba helps in that process. Baba helps us. Sure.
Yeah, great point. And I think what I would advise is, if Brahmins are having Murli revisions, or you're a teacher and after the Murli you're asking the students to share points, don't just get them to repeat points. So say, like, if you say, okay, which point did you like? And then add in a second question. And what does it mean to you? Let's add in a second question. So don't just get them to repeat. And then you'll get a bit more quality, because the idea that Baba has is that we've got to personalize this knowledge. We've got to put it into our own life. And that can be a good way of encouraging people to think more and deeper. And then I just realized I didn't share the second imagery about churning, and it's to do with Krishna, where we're having the butter. So, as you all know, that cows are revered in India, and it's to do, they're connected with Krishna, and there's Murli that ever says, Krishna is the prince of the golden age, he doesn't look after cows. So he's not doing any of that. So why is this connected? And it's to do with this butter, where Krishna gets the butter. And what Buddha says is that cows, they initially eat grass, and they chew, and they chew. So Buddha is giving you grass. That's what the Murli is. Now, grass in itself, not everyone can eat. You know, you've got to be a cow to be able to eat. The Buddha says that you are the cows of Krishna, and you are the ones able to eat his grass. Then your job is to chew on it. So we sometimes use this phrase, you got to chew on a concept, meaning you got to think about it, like you were saying in Big Event, and then sometimes actually you didn't even know what that means, or you didn't know. And one thing Devi Gentry used to say, which I think was very useful, that if there's something in the Murli you don't understand, don't get stuck on it. Like just put it to one side, and then you can come back to it another time. So then cows have four stomachs. So what happens is they put it to one side, they chew, and then they put it to one side and let it digest a bit, and they chew something else new. So this is what happens. Every day we get a new Murli, new grass. And we've got points from the other side of the days, which are in our other stomach. And then it gets passed to a third stomach and a fourth stomach. And then one day it becomes milk. So it goes through a whole process of churning. But then, even if you got really good quality milk, you churn it again to create the butter. So what that is saying is that he's giving us really great quality. Sometimes grass, sometimes milk. But he's still saying churn it. Still bring out more out of it. And this is why, you know, we're sort of adding value in a sense to it. And Baba becomes happy, you know, he's not possessive of it. The key is always making sure that we're sticking to the main point he wants to make. So we're not just churning in a way like because for half a cycle we've been gurus or following other gurus. And so the habit is that we make up our own thing. We're not doing that. And we're not trying to turn everyone's attention to us. But it's connecting everyone else more deeply with the Lord, more deeply with that. And that's the purpose. And then that becomes butter. And that butter really helps Brahmins. And the butter, I think, is especially important for Brahmins who've been listening to the Murli for many years, because sometimes they need freshness, they need depth. They know, they themselves are teaching. But one thing the daddies have, they listened to the Murlis for 70 years, and it felt completely new to them every day. So this is really the role when you're churning the milk to make butter. That's for the more experienced brother. How can we make them realize even more, enjoy even more, have newness even more? Those are the two. Do you want to add anything in, Lynette?
No, brother, that's it. I think this was a very rich conversation. We learned a lot today.
Yeah. So thank you, those of you able to attend and contribute. Really appreciate that. Warm regards to those of you joining in later on through YouTube. So let's see what that says to us tomorrow in the morning as well. But we know very, very clearly service through the mind. This is something which we are all responsible for, and we get double benefit. We benefit ourselves and everyone else. And what that is saying is, you're not realizing what could be unlocked through this. The point has a great power. The Buddha is the ocean of power, but it's our sadhana, it's our spiritual endeavor, which has to unlock this for the world. So the world could be receiving some special powers from Buddha, depending on your spiritual endeavor. And we live in a time where everyone wants things instantly. But that's not how sadhana works. Sadhana means you do a spiritual endeavor over a period of time with consistency and with discipline. And then it unlocks something. So this is why let's consistently and quietly focus on our yoga. Develop that, and then you'll see that for your locality, and then as our power grows, it will also spread right around the world. But ultimately wants us to be world benefactors, not locality benefactors. But I think initially, let's get our locality good. And what you'll be providing is you as a yogi have to give a boon to your locality. So how they display this in Bhakti is these different saints. They will sit for years in a cave, in a forest. And then there's this great power, like if they wanted to achieve something for their local community, and they literally show how they remove some obstacles, they protect, or they can even influence nature and the whole nature with a natural change. Suddenly where there was no greenery, there's farming and things like that. They show this type of, they gain a spiritual boon for the area. So this is something which Baba is saying, you are Raj Rishi, you are Raj Yogi. So as a Brahmin, don't forget this, that you have to have such intensive spiritual endeavor that you're giving the fruits. You're enabling a boon for your locality. And it doesn't matter if no one knows that you did that. That's not important. But the important thing is they get it. So that is saying unlock it from that. And then you as a point soul, you also have a lot of powers locked inside of you. They've got to be managed. Shanti. Have a great week, everyone.
Shanti, too. Say hi to Ranjan Ben.
Hi,
Yes. Om Shanti.